I would hate to put the ceiling boards up and have the lights not work. So the next thing to do is to test all of those lights that I just wired. Good morning, everyone. It is week number 3 of the van build, and it is time to put the ceiling in. So far, I've done the subfloor and insulation. I put insulation in the ceiling, installed the fan, and started to put the electrical boxes in for the light. If it's your first time here, welcome to the van build. Don't forget to hit subscribe before you leave the video. If you find it helpful, give it a big thumbs up. Today, I'm going to start with running the wire for the lights and then connecting all of the electrical boxes and connecting the electrical wires for the fan. I'm so excited to finally see the van start to transform. I cannot wait to get started for the day. Took the weekend off, I'm rested and ready to go. Time to get started. The lights each have 3 wires, a negative, a positive, and a ground. I'm using heavy 16 gauge wire because it's going to run through the van and I want it to be insulated well, and it also has 3: negative, positive, and ground. It's all color coded, so the white wires will connect to each other, the black wires and the green. I'm going to start by stretching the wire across the van and then connect the light. All of the lights are going to be on the same switch. This is going to be the last one, and then the rest are just going to be wired in succession. So I left this loop where I can wire up each light, and then I ran it where it fits, kind of in the grooves as best as possible. And then up here you can see these 2 loops ready to be wired. And then what I'm going to do is just tape this up and put it with the other wires to the back of the van. On Friday, I did the same thing with the cord from the fan. This only has 2 wires, so I have the same heavy insulated 16 gauge, but only with 2 wires on the inside. I'm not gonna lie, I cut the cord about 1 foot too short, so I have to fish it all back out and put a new one in. Oh, it's fine. Luckily, I do have plenty of wire. After having to rerun the wire with it being too short, I decided to switch to the fan. I started by stripping the end of each wire and then crimping on the connector. Now that I have the butt connectors on each wire, I'm going to cover them in electrical tape and then put them up to the ceiling. And then the fan will be done. Starting to wire up the lights gets a little tricky because some of these we're going to have an incoming and an outgoing, so we have a lot to put into the little cap. I'm going to tape off this first one and I'll show you a few of the others. Ooh. Whew. Tighten down my terminal clamps. And then I am going to add a piece of Gorilla Tape to each of these so that these doors don't flop open while I'm driving and then clank against the ceiling. 20,000 miles of that noise sounds horrible, so I'm going to add some tape just to be safe. I realize I haven't talked much about what I'm planning to do for power. Instead of adding solar, which would take a lot of time, I'm actually just going to use an electric generator. So in essence, a big battery. I'm gonna add plugs to these cords so I can use that outlet. I'm also gonna add a switch so I can turn the lights on pretty easily, and an outlet where I can charge like my computer. So it will look normal in the van. I just won't have solar on the top and I won't have as much power. I'm interested to see how it works. It's definitely how I want to start out. It's the easiest approach and one of the reasons why I'm going to be able to get the build done so quickly. The other thing that's great with this design is if I wanted to add solar, I can either access the roof here or here just by taking off this back wood panel. It should be super easy to add later if I want to while I'm on my trip. The biggest thing is that I'm able to charge my phone and my computer. I'm not planning to have a lot of power things in the kitchen. Like I don't plan to bring a blender. I'm going to use propane to cook. So really it should be enough power. I'm hoping to use portable solar panels to charge that battery, and I can also charge it while I drive. Should be an easier way to have power without adding solar panels and an inverter, 8 batteries and a fuse box. You can really go overboard with electricity, and it'll be interesting to see if this is enough for what I'm planning to do. I really came up and wanted to use this plan so that if I wanted to change and use solar power later, I could adapt really easily. With these cords that I'm going to add plugs to, I could just splice the plug off, add it to a fuse box, and use solar power. But this is what I'm doing for now. I am going to add the plug to the cord for the lights so that I can check them before putting up the ceiling. I would hate to put the ceiling boards up and have the lights not work. So the next thing to do is to test all of those lights that I just wired. This is the plug I'm going to add. It has a ground, which is really what I need. I have to put this on first so that you don't forget. We'll come back to that later. Now you have to wrap each one around a screw. The green one goes on the ground. I'm gonna start with the positive and negative, which go on the left or right. And tighten it down. Now that I have the plug on, I plugged it into a drop cord and the lights are on. I took out this light that I've been using, like a drop light, just to see how bright it is with the lights on in the van. So all 4 of them work, which means I did such a good job on the electrical. I just have them taped up with masking tape, so if they look a little odd, eventually they'll clip right into the shiplap. It's going to be so bright in this van. Could probably land an airplane. That is about it for the lights. I am going to wrap up the day adding some insulation on these spots that have space for it. And then tomorrow, I'll actually be able to add some of the boards to the ceiling. Ugh, can't wait. I'll see you then. Good morning, everyone. Today, we are adding the ceiling. Before I get started, I'm going to go through and take pictures of everything because I want to know where the wires are before I cover them up. I'm going to try and do that at every layer so that if I need to go through and fix the wires or the plumbing, I know where everything's at under the ceiling and under the walls. I'm going to do that first and then get everything set up to cut the ceiling planks. Here is what the room looks like right now. The X's are where the lights are going to go. The fan is taped up. The insulation is on. I measured out the distance from the back of the van to the fan, and that's where we're gonna start. I'm gonna put the middle board in first. It has 2 lights. That way we get that out of the way and they're in position before we start building out on either side of it. It's 77 inches, almost exactly is what we need. After trying to put the board up on the wall, I actually went and looked at different screws, and I found a self-tapping metal screw, which is what we're going to use for this project. With the pan head, it should be able to go into the board easily and bury just a little bit, and then I'm going to go through with wood filler to smooth it all out before I paint. A lot of people will actually run a piece of wood across the entire support and then use like pin nails to go through the wood. I don't want to do that because I don't want to lose any like space on my ceiling. The metal self-tapping screw should solve that problem pretty easily. They're only 1 inch long, so I have plenty of space before going through the roof. Now we just have to get started. Starting on this first board, I measured out where the lights go. We have to cut the holes for those before we put it up. The lights are 4 inches, so I have a 4-inch hole saw that should be perfect. We're going to cut the hole with this so it's perfectly round, and then these should be able to fit right in, and then they clip with these. So it should look really smooth against the shiplap. I'm gonna hook up the lights before we go any further and then finish at least the fan section of the ceiling. Then we'll get to the long boards, which should be fun. Little by little. Making a lot of progress on the ceiling. You can see everything back here is lined up nicely. Up here, working around all of our problems that we have. These boards fit in really well around the fan. I have the lights up, which really turned out great. It was hard to align those, so I'm happy that those turned out so well. There's not going to be a lot of things in this van that are symmetrical, so I'm happy to have those in. All of these holes will be sanded and filled and sanded. This should look super smooth by the time we're done. There's a spot here and then up at the front that were just too big of a gap, so I added an extra piece of wood. That has helped to keep everything really round here and will help keep everything really supported here. So these 2 support pieces have been really helpful, and I'm happy so far to have saved the space and not added the wood across the entire van. The next challenge is to work around these. I did get a gray spray paint so that I can make them a little lighter, but the ceiling is going to come up to it. That's where I'm going to end the video today. If you found it interesting, give it a big thumbs up. You'll have to stop back next time to see the finished ceiling and the walls. I'll see you then.